Super Bowl 59 is here, which means Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, even Taylor Swift up in her box in New Orleans will be trying to go for a three-peat, while Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and my Philadelphia Eagles look to try to stop that from happening. Of course, this is Super Bowl 59. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this will be the final Brandon's World Money Line pick and best bets of 2024. We are going to cover this game from every angle, as I just alluded to. I'll give you my pick of the game. I'll give you some prop bets if you really want to dive into the prop bets. I know that's what a lot of people love to do for the Super Bowl is dive into those crazy prop bets, such as will there be a 2-point conversion converted successfully? What is the longest field goal? Who will win the coin toss? What will the result of the coin toss be? Heads or tails? All that good stuff. I'm not going to dive into the crazy lunacy, sort of prop bets. I'll give you more strategic prop bets here, but I would not lie to you. As I've been saying for the past 2 weeks since the conclusion of the NFC and AFC championship games, finish the story. A lot like Cody Rhodes, who ironically did it to Roman Reigns in the home of my Philadelphia Eagles at WrestleMania 40 10 months ago, Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My Eagles are going to look to do the same to the Kansas City Chiefs. Because me and every Eagles fan out there will tell you, Super Bowl 57 flat out hurt. We believe we were the better team. We believe we outplayed the Chiefs. We had a 24-14 lead at halftime. The field was very slippery. I get all that, the James Bradbury holding call, etc. We can put all that to bed finally if my Eagles do, and indeed they will, come out victorious in this game. A lot of people want to talk about the rematch from 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. I personally think a lot of people are maybe overlooking the fact these two teams did in fact play a year ago. It was week 11. It was in Kansas City. The Chiefs were up 17-7. Both teams had one loss at the time. And my Eagles went in there to Kansas City with now former defensive coordinator Sean Desai. That was one of the last games he coached the Eagles defensive coordinator that season. And the Eagles came back in incredible fashion for a team that obviously ended up collapsing down the stretch. They won that game. Now, this Eagles team last year is even more different than the team that was 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. Well, the Chiefs obviously don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Now, they did not have Tyreek Hill for that first Super Bowl, but they still had Travis Kelce. Now, their defense wasn't to the level it is now. With excuse me, with the likes of Trent Duffy, Nick Bolton, those guys, the young guys, George Karlaftis, those defensive guys that have really grown up, really young guys there on their defense. Their defense is certainly better than what it was 2 years ago. But as I've been saying, as I've been telling everybody that has asked me about this game, going back the last 2 weeks, the difference to me between this game 2 years ago and this game that's coming up on Sunday is the Eagles' transformation, not on the offense side of the ball with Saquon Barkley, not new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, who this may be his last game as the Eagles' offensive coordinator if he does indeed take the New Orleans Saints job. But I believe it is on the defensive side of the ball for my Eagles. Think about who was on that defensive line for Philadelphia in Super Bowl 57. You had the likes of Hassan Reddick, Javon Hargrave, Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph. Those guys are now being replaced by Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, and of course, Jalen Carter, who I've been saying for the past 2 weeks, Aaron Donald has endorsed him as the next great defensive lineman in pro football. Not only that, but you have Zach Bond, who came over in special teams from the New Orleans Saints and has turned himself into a literal all pro linebacker in the NFL. If you guys saw it in my NFL honors predictions, which of course NFL honors does happen tonight, by the way, I said Zach Bond was going to win Defensive Player of the Year because of the impact he had on this Eagles defense. I also predicted Quinyon Mitchell to win the Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper Dean in the slot. Those two, those two defensive backs, one out of Toledo, one out of Iowa, have completely changed my defensive philosophy, led by Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator, who, yes, he was the former head coach of the Broncos, and he never defeated Patrick Mahomes head to head. But his defense has always given Mahomes fits. His offense just could not score enough points. For the Eagles, in that Super Bowl game 2 years ago, they could not get a run game going outside of Jalen Hurts. In the regular season matchup, DeAndre Swift had pretty good success a year ago. Both of those guys, obviously Miles Sanders, who was the running back in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, DeAndre Swift, who was the running back last year in the regular season, they are not number 26 for the Eagles, who is having, in my opinion, the greatest running back season, not only in Eagles franchise history, potentially in NFL history, especially if the Eagles pull this off in Saquon Barkley. Now, I do have to give a lot of the credit to the offensive line. Jordan Malaya, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Mekhi Becton, Lane Johnson. They are by far the biggest offensive line in football. Saquon Barkley does have the most rushing yards in the NFL this season before contact by a large margin. But the difference between Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift and Saquon Barkley is Saquon Barkley can take a 6, 7 yard run that one of those two other backs could get and turn it into a 60-yard house call. I also think the mobility and the running threat of Jalen Hurts makes it so those holes open up wider for Saquon Barkley. And as great as the Kansas City defense has been this year, you can run on Kansas City and you're going to get one-on-one opportunities the way they play defense. We know Steve Spagnuolo, he may be a Hall of Famer in his own right as a defensive coordinator. He's won 4 Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator. One with the New York Giants in 2007, and then three here, obviously 54, 57, 58 with the Kansas City Chiefs. We know he likes to bring those opportunistic blitzes, but these Eagles receivers, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, they are very good at beating man coverage. And the, the biggest change for my Eagles on the offense side of the ball since they started 2-2 and they went to the bye week. And obviously, many people were saying they were still in their supernatural funk from the 2023 collapse. Was not only the more effectiveness running the football with Saquon Barkley, but it was the fact that Jalen Hurts is leaning on the run game. He's leaning on the defense. He's making plays when he has to make them, but he is not turning the football over. He only has one interception. He did more turnovers, a couple of loose fumbles, which obviously plagued them in Super Bowl 57 2 years ago. But he only has one interception since week 5. Again, I talk about this all the time. I talked about it with Buffalo when they faced Kansas City. And believe it or not, Buffalo did win the turnover battle against Kansas City, 1-0, and still lost the game. When you face Kansas City, because they are so efficient offensively, because they don't have a lot of big plays, because they use a lot of Worthy and Kelsey underneath, they acquired DeAndre Hopkins at the trade deadline. He has not even had that big of an impact on this team. Believe it or not, his over under in catches in this game is only at 1.5. But because Kansas City is so efficient, when you get turnovers against them, you have to capitalize, you have to score touchdowns. I think, again, the Eagles' defense overall, not only in the secondary, but the defensive line up front of what we presume will be obviously normal turf in New Orleans. The Eagles were already there in New Orleans in week 3 when they took on the Saints. Remember that big play with Dallas Goddard going down the sideline when the Eagles were trailing in that game? I think it was 6-0 in the fourth quarter. That was way back in week 3. The Saints were 2-0. Philly was 1-1. It really felt like a potential turning point of the season. There was no A.J. Brown in that game. There was no Devontae Smith in that game. Dallas Goddard made some big plays down the stretch. The defense came up with a big sack and a big turnover to steal it at the end of the game. Will that be what wins my Philadelphia Eagles their second Super Bowl championship in history this coming Sunday, February 9th? I'll be honest with you guys. I know Kendrick Lamar is performing at halftime of the Super Bowl. I wish, for those of you that have never experienced it, this will be now my third time. Obviously, the Eagles made one prior Super Bowl before I was born in 1980. They lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. They made another Super Bowl in 2005 when they lost to the New England Patriots. I was born then. That was actually one of the first years that I was a Philadelphia Eagles fan. One of the first teams I ever saw on television, even though obviously with the Cavs shirt I'm wearing today, I'm from the Cleveland area. But when I watched that 2004 NFC Championship game between the Eagles and Falcons, you had the likes of Donovan McNabb and Brian Dawkins and Brian Westbrook and those guys flying around. That really made me an Eagles fan for life. So I was not, the festivities, if you will, of a Super Bowl. I didn't really know what they meant. I watched the game. I didn't really understand it. Way back in 2005. So 2017 was my first experience, or 2018, if you will, because that was when it was played, February 4th, 2018. You had February 11th, 2023, which was Chiefs Eagles Super Bowl 57 in Phoenix, Arizona. Now here in New Orleans, Louisiana, we have Chiefs Eagles round 2. The Eagles once slayed a potential three-peat of the New England Patriots. They won Super Bowl 51, they won Super Bowl 53. This was in the middle of their 3 straight trips to the Super Bowl. Nick Foles, 41-33. Can this franchise do the same to Kansas City and stop them from being the first team in NFL history to three-peat? The Chiefs are also the first team in NFL history to get a chance to three-peat because the previous back-to-back Super Bowl champion, obviously Dallas Cowboys have done it. New England Patriots have done it. They did not get back to the Super Bowl to even have a chance to three-peat, which leads me to Patrick Mahomes' legacy. This is obviously a huge, excuse me, excuse me, a huge debate going into this game. If the Chiefs were to repeat, which for the record, if they do, by the grace of God, hopefully not, but if they do, I think Travis Kelce will call it a career. He'll ride off into the sunset with Taylor Swift. We may even see a proposal on the field. Yes, I think all that is in play. Um, but if the Chiefs were to, again, unfortunately for me, repeat. Again, it's hard for me. I try to be as unbiased as possible when I break down the game, but when it comes to it, guys, I'm obviously, as you guys know, I call myself the biggest Eagles fan in Cleveland. I'm the biggest Eagles fan. I'd like to think one of them on the face of this planet. I bleed green. I have everything green you can think of, from hats, from visors to shirts to pants to winter gear to summer gear to shoes to socks. I mean, I have birds things everywhere to posters. Everybody that knows me can attest how big of an Eagles fan I am. Um, but I will say this. in terms of the argument of Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. When this discussion started coming up a couple years ago, when Patrick Mahomes was obviously beginning his run, and yes, he did lose Super Bowl 55 to Tom Brady in Tampa, Brady's home stadium. We all know the story. He also did lose the 2018 AFC Championship game to Tom Brady when Tom Brady was still a member of the New England Patriots. The one thing I'll counter with that is this. Again, even though Tom Brady went back to back in the Super Bowl, Tom Brady never got a chance to even repeat. Patrick Mahomes has a chance to repeat. I think if they do get it done, this will be more of the Michael Jordan versus LeBron James discussion. Whereas, Michael Jordan got a repeat in Chicago. Even though Bill Russell had the most championships at the time at 11, it was like universally understood Michael Jordan will be the greatest player to ever waste up a pair of sneakers. And then LeBron James came along, and even though LeBron only has four titles, as opposed to MJ six, and MJ has the two repeats, LeBron has the most playoff points ever, the most points scored ever, the most assists in playoff history, the most game winners in playoff history. All of these cumulative stats, and as I've been saying, whether you think LeBron or MJ is the GOAT, I think 20 years from now, as many people unfortunately pass away and move on from this planet that never saw Michael, and we have more people than not on this planet who never saw Michael Jordan lace up a pair of sneakers. The GOAT conversation will move from Michael Jordan to LeBron. I think if Mahomes gets a freebie, the fact that Tom Brady went 10 years where they made two Super Bowls, they had some weird eliminations, in the wild card round, uh, to the likes of Joe Flacco, to the divisional round and Mark Sanchez. I think the fact that Mahomes, he's going into year eight, this will be year eight next year. He's just wrapping up year seven. The fact that he would already have multiple MVPs, and the earliest he's been eliminated as a starter in the NFL is the AFC Championship game, where Tom Brady, the year after they won the Super Bowl in 2001, missed the playoffs the following season. So I think, if Mahomes and Kansas City, even if they lose this Super Bowl, if they win Super Bowl 60 and 61, that would give Mahomes five championships in what? A 7 year span, and it would be what? Five straight trips to the Super Bowl, and five in the last 8 years or whatever it would be in totality. I think that would give Mahomes the edge over Tom Brady because Mahomes already, by the way, remember it was universally decided Joe Montana was the GOAT until Tom Brady came along, got his fourth against Seattle in that wild finish, and then Super Bowl 51, obviously the 28-3 comeback against the Atlanta Falcons. That's one, in my opinion, I think ultimately when Brady got his fifth and they had that 28-3 comeback against the Falcons, I think everybody universally said, okay, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback to have ever played the sport. I, I think, excuse me, this could be a legacy defining moment for Patrick Mahomes if they get to multiple Super Bowls and win them during the next few seasons. Okay, so let's get to my official prediction for the game. I think you guys obviously know I'm going to take my Eagles plus 1.5. We are going to be back here on Monday morning. I'm going to be celebrating a parade with all of you. I also am going to go on the record here and give a score prediction. I'm going to predict that my Eagles win the game 27-23. That gives us 50 total points, which means I'm going to take the over under of 47.5. I also like Jalen Hurts to score an anytime touchdown, presumably on a brotherly shove. I'll take Saquon Barkley to score a anytime touchdown. And I'm also going to take A.J. Brown, who I think this is the game. A lot of people are talking about A.J. Brown has not been a very good playoff player. He's reading the book, inner excellence, etc. I think A.J. Brown comes out. He gets 40 yards receiving. As per FanDuel odds, if you put a $5 bet on these props, it will give you $35 payout. So not a ton. I get it. Again, I'm going a little bit conservative with these prop bets. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of money to win potentially for the Super Bowl as we wrap up our money line predictions and best bets for the year. I think AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and crew again. I think that they will cook the Kansas City Chiefs man coverage. I think the key to the game will be in my Philadelphia Eagles get a turnover and capitalize it and score touchdowns off of it. And can Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat, even Brandon Graham potentially coming back here, can they get enough pressure to help out those two guys in the back end with Mitchell and DeJean and Slay cover Kansas City enough to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes? I think the Eagles are the best offensive line and defensive line in the NFL. I believe that all season. I think Jalen Hurts will take care of the football. I think he'll make smart decisions with the football. I think my Eagles are the better team. I think Kansas City has obviously an advantage at quarterback. I don't think it's as a distinctive advantage as everybody else does. And I do think that my head coach, Nick Sirianni, who even admitted this week at Super Bowl Media Night on Monday night that he can sometimes get a little over emotional. I think Nick Sirianni proves the doubters wrong. I've always been a believer in Nick Sirianni, and I can't wait. I hope that I'm celebrating with all of you Monday morning. Again, no matter what the scenario is, I will be here Monday. Brandon's World breaking down the game. Enjoy all of it. Enjoy the food. Enjoy the commercials. Enjoy your Super Bowl parties. Hopefully, it's a great game. Either way, go Eagles. We'll see you Monday. Enjoy Super Bowl 59 from all of us here at Brandon's World. We are in collaboration with the one, the only Voltage Live. And peace. Like that clip from the Brandon's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brandon's World podcast right here on YouTube.